Rain hammered the windshield as Daniel slammed his car door shut, cursing under his breath. He'd stayed late at work again, and the storm had rolled in faster than he expected. Lightning split the sky as he jogged across the empty park toward the path that cut home. The shortcut saved him 10 minutes, and at that hour that mattered. He didn't see her at first, just the swing, creaking back and forth in the wind, squealing on rusted chains. He almost kept walking until the motion stopped mid-swing, as if a hand had caught it. That's when he noticed the small figure sitting there. A little girl, maybe 6, maybe 7. She was facing away from him, her yellow raincoat bright against the gray drizzle, her shoes scuffing at the mud beneath. Daniel slowed, uneasy. No one else was around. Hey, you okay?" he called, raising his voice over the rain. The girl turned her head slightly. Her dark hair clung to her face, and her eyes met his, calm and unblinking. "Don't go home yet," she said softly. He blinked, confused. "What?" She repeated it a little louder. "Don't go home yet." He let out a short, awkward laugh, the kind you make when something doesn't sit right. What do you mean?" "Where are your parents?" The girl didn't answer. She looked past him toward the path leading out of the park, then back at him again. There was something almost pleading in her gaze. "Okay," he said slowly, forcing a chuckle. "It's raining, kid. You should head home. You'll get sick out here." He turned toward the path again, but something made him glance back after only a few steps. The swing was empty. Just empty. He stood still, rain dripping from his hair, his heart thudding with an unshakable feeling, like he'd missed something important. He shook his head, telling himself it was nothing. Just some neighbor's kid messing around. Kids were weird like that sometimes. By the time he reached the street, the rain had softened into mist. His house sat 3 blocks away, warm, familiar light spilling from the living room window. He should have felt comfort at the sight of home, but a strange chill ran through him instead. He crossed the last intersection, fishing for his keys, when he noticed the van parked at the curb near his driveway. Old, white, dented on one side, no license plate on the front. He frowned. There wasn't supposed to be anyone parked there. He approached slowly. The van's engine was running, its headlights were off. He could hear the faint hum of the motor beneath the rain. "Hello," he called out, voice hesitant. No movement inside. He took a step closer, peering through the driver's side window, and froze. The seat was empty. The steering wheel was trembling slightly, as though someone had just let go. "Jesus," he muttered. "That's not creepy at all." He turned toward his house. The lights were on, but something felt wrong about them. Too bright, too deliberate. He had the sudden, unnerving thought that someone might be inside, watching. He laughed under his breath again, trying to shake it off. "You're paranoid, man," he whispered to himself. Still, he didn't move. His shoes soaked through. The rain hissed against the pavement. Then a voice broke the silence, his neighbor, Mrs. Kane, waving from her porch across the street. "Daniel?" she called. "Everything all right, honey?" He forced a smile. "Yeah, just checking something." She frowned, squinting through the rain. "Someone was in your yard a little while ago. I saw them from the window. They ducked out when my porch light came on." He froze. "You're serious?" She nodded. "Tall guy wearing a hood." He went around back. Daniel's eyes flicked toward his house, his pulse spiking. He stepped onto the sidewalk, trying to see through the rain-streaked windows. The back light was out. "I'm calling the police," Mrs. Kane said, already reaching for her phone. No, wait," he said quickly. "I'll check first." Maybe it was. A sound cut him off, a low creak. From his backyard. He stopped breathing for a second. The sound came again, soft, deliberate. Footsteps on wet wood. "Don't go home yet." The words came back to him, whispered like a memory, and he felt his chest tighten. He backed away slowly, eyes on the shadows stretching behind his fence. Mrs. Kane's porch light flickered. "Daniel, get over here," she said sharply. He crossed the street without thinking, his shoes splashing through puddles. He didn't look back until he reached her porch. The sound had stopped. The backyard was still, but the van was gone. He waited there while Mrs. Kane called the police. When they arrived, he followed them back across the street, trying to act calm while his hands shook. The front door looked untouched, but when one of the officers opened it, the faint smell of cigarette smoke drifted out. "Was anyone supposed to be here tonight?" the taller cop asked. "No," Daniel said. "I live alone." They swept through the rooms, flashlights cutting through the dim light. One of them found muddy footprints leading from the back door to the hallway and ending abruptly at the base of the stairs. Daniel stared at the prints, cold spreading through him. "If I'd come home 10 minutes earlier..." He didn't finish. The officer looked at him with a small, knowing frown. "You said you stopped somewhere on the way home." "Yeah, the park. What for?" "I don't know," Daniel said honestly. "I just did." Later, when the police left, he sat on the porch steps long after midnight, trying to make sense of what had happened. The street was quiet now. Mrs. Kane had gone inside, her curtains drawn. He thought about the girl again, the yellow raincoat, the pale face, the soft voice. He'd wanted to ask her name. He couldn't even explain why. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the blinds. For the first time, he noticed how empty the house felt. He made coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and stared at the dark stain where the footprints had been before the rainwater dried. By noon, curiosity got the better of him. He returned to the park. The grass was damp, dotted with tiny puddles. Children played near the jungle gym, their laughter bright and alive. The swing that had moved the night before was still. He stood there for a long time, scanning the park, until a woman nearby caught his eye. She was watching him, older, maybe late 30s, with kind eyes and a stroller beside her. "Are you looking for someone?" she asked. "Yeah," he said hesitantly. "There was a little girl here yesterday." Yellow coat. Maybe 6 or 7 years old. The woman's face softened, then changed subtly, the way faces do when someone remembers something sad. "You must be new around here," she said. "That sounds like Lily." He frowned. "You know her?" The woman looked down for a second, her hands tightening on the stroller handle. "Everyone knew her. She died. Years ago, Daniel's throat went dry." "What?" "There was a car accident," she continued quietly. "Just over there, by the crosswalk. It was raining. She was wearing that same yellow coat." He stared at the empty swing, the one that still swayed slightly in the wind, though no one touched it. "That can't be," he said, half to himself. "I talked to her." The woman gave him a small, sad smile. "A lot of people say that." Daniel didn't answer the woman. His mouth opened, but nothing came out. The park noise dulled around him, children laughing, a dog barking somewhere, but everything sounded far away, like he was underwater. She gave him one more sympathetic look, then turned her stroller toward the path. "They say she still watches the park," she added softly. "Maybe that's just something people tell themselves." Daniel stood there long after she left. The swing creaked once, though there was no wind now. He told himself to walk away. Go home, forget it. But instead, he crossed the grass toward the old oak, near the fence where a cluster of wilted flowers and a small photograph sat nestled under a stone. The picture showed the same little girl. Dark hair, bright yellow coat, gap-toothed smile. The date below her name made his stomach twist. "Lily," he whispered. Saying it out loud made the air feel colder. He crouched and brushed a leaf away from the stone. "Thank you," he murmured, feeling absurd talking to a picture. "I don't know how, but thank you." Something brushed past his sleeve, light as static, gone before he turned. He looked around quickly. The park was empty again. He exhaled shakily, rubbed his arms, and decided that was enough weirdness for one day. That night, he couldn't sleep. The house felt different, too quiet, too aware. Every creak of the floorboards made him tense. At 2 a.m., he gave up and went to the kitchen for water. The porch light flickered. A faint tapping came from the window. 3 slow knocks. He froze, glass halfway to his lips. "Probably a branch," he muttered, but he moved closer anyway. The window looked out onto the backyard. Nothing moved outside, just darkness and the sheen of rain on the patio. He turned away, and the taps came again, this time softer, almost polite. He pulled the curtain aside just enough to see. No one, only the reflection of his own face, and behind his shoulder, something pale, like the curve of a small hand pressed briefly against the other side of the glass. Then gone. His breath hitched. He stepped back until his knees hit the counter. "Lily," he said quietly before he could stop himself. Silence. Then faintly from the living room, a sound like a swing creaking. He almost laughed. Almost. Because it couldn't be real. Still, he followed the sound. Each step felt heavier, like walking through thick air. The living room was dim, lit only by the streetlight through the blinds. The noise came again, slow and rhythmic. When he switched on the lamp, the sound stopped. He stood there, heartbeat loud in his ears, scanning the empty room. Nothing. He shut the light off again, and in the darkness, just for a second, he thought he saw the outline of a small figure by the window, facing the street. He whispered, "What do you want me to see?" The streetlight flickered twice, then steadied. The figure was gone. He didn't sleep the rest of the night. By morning, he'd convinced himself he imagined it. Lack of sleep, leftover adrenaline from the break-in. It made sense, but part of him couldn't let go of the feeling that the warning wasn't over, that something else waited to happen. 2 evenings later, he was driving home when traffic ahead of him came to a standstill. Red brake lights stretched down the road like a string of beads. He groaned, leaning out his window to see. Up ahead, flashing lights, police tape, a van, white, crumpled against a pole. His stomach dropped, same dents, same model. He parked on the shoulder and walked closer before realizing what he was doing. An officer stopped him. "Sir, you need to stay back." Daniel nodded, but his eyes stayed fixed on the wreck. The windshield was shattered inward, the driver's door torn off. A faint smell of gasoline hung in the air. "What happened?" he asked. "Fled a burglary," the officer said. "Lost control during the chase. Happened about 10 minutes ago. 10 minutes. The same amount of time Lily had bought him that first night." He stepped back, trembling. The crowd's murmur dimmed to a hum in his ears. Somewhere deep inside, he felt it again. That same strange tug, like someone urging him to move. He turned toward the park. The sky was bruised purple by the time he got there. He walked the same path he'd taken the night it rained, past the benches and the empty fountain. The swing moved slowly in the wind. "I saw it," he said aloud, not caring how crazy it sounded. "The van. You stopped me from walking in on them, didn't you?" A single leaf spiraled down and landed on the swing. It rocked once. "You can rest now," he whispered. "You did what you had to do." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the air seemed to lighten, the tension that had knotted his shoulders easing like a held breath released. He left the park quietly, and for the first time in days, he felt almost normal. Weeks passed. The police confirmed the burglars had targeted several homes in the area, staking out houses where the lights stayed off late. His fit the pattern exactly. The thought chilled him, but it also made him grateful in a way he couldn't explain. He went back to work, to routines. Yet sometimes, crossing the park, he'd catch a glimpse of yellow near the swings, always at the edge of sight, gone when he looked straight at it. He never felt afraid. Then, one autumn afternoon, while packing up his desk, he overheard two co-workers talking. "You remember that accident a few years ago?" one said. "Little girl hit near Maple Street?" "My sister was the paramedic on scene. She said the weirdest thing. Before the crash, the kid had been trying to wave down cars, yelling for them to stop. Like she knew it was coming, Daniel froze mid-reach for his coat. She was trying to stop them, the other asked. Yeah, they said she kept shouting, 'Don't go yet,' over and over." He sat back slowly, heart hammering. The words rang in his ears like an echo across time. That night he returned to the park one last time. The air was crisp, leaves crunching underfoot. A small candle flickered on the memorial stone. Someone else had been there recently. He crouched, staring at the photograph. "You've been warning people a long time, huh?" he said softly. "Even before you." He stopped himself, smiling sadly. "You don't have to warn me anymore." He stayed until the candle burned low. When it finally went out, he stood and glanced once more at the swing. It moved gently, steady and calm. He turned to leave. Halfway down the path, he heard a child's laughter, light, joyful, not eerie at all. It faded into the wind. At home, he set his keys on the counter and felt the familiar quiet settle around him. But this time it wasn't heavy. It was peaceful. He poured himself a drink, looked out the window at the street, and whispered, "Good night, Lily." Somewhere, a swing creaked once and fell still. Later, when people asked why he never took the shortcut through the park after dark, he'd only smile and say, "Because someone told me not to." He never mentioned her name, but every time rain began to fall and streetlights shimmered through the droplets, he'd catch himself glancing toward the park, half expecting to see a small figure in a yellow coat watching over the path home. And though the years blurred the details, one truth stayed sharp and certain. He would never, ever ignore a little child's warning again.